and welcome back to AMC Jedi Council. I am Kristian Harloff, a.k.a. Darth Harloff. Joining me today on the council, you've seen him before, it is Mark II-D2. Mark Ellis, what's up, brother?
I got my Mark II-D2 shirt. My girlfriend gave me this shirt, which proves that you should date a girl that knows something about Star Wars because you get cool stuff like this.
Or like you say, lives in Narnia. Also joining us on the panel, we don't have a Star Wars name from him yet, but at the end of the show we will. He is from IGN, MTV. Max Nicholson, what's up, dude?
Hello, thanks for having me.
I finally got to have you on the show. You and I have been talking about having you on the show for a while. Max knows as much as I do on the canon stuff and looking to get...
What? Really?
Ooh, we'll see.
Max is a canon junkie.
Yeah, I do. I love the canon.
So we're going to get into all that. If this is your first time joining us on AMC Jedi Council, this show, it's pretty simple. We just cover everything Star Wars relating into the movies. We'll go into books and games and all that stuff a little later on. But the first thing we do on the show, it's all about the Star Wars movie news. Everything that has happened so far this week in the news for Star Wars, we cover it. Mark's going to break down the stories. We're going to talk about it together. Mark, what's up first?
Ooh, boy, do we have something hot off the press for you kids. Now, remember that Vanity Fair shoot that came out a few weeks ago? Annie Leibovitz, one of the greatest photographers of all time, was on set. She was taking some pictures. She revealed a bit of information today about Andy Serkis' character. He's going to be playing a dude named Supreme Leader Snoke. That is his name, and it appears from this picture he's going to be a lot of motion capture involved. So, Kristian, Supreme Leader Snoke. That ain't Darth Plagueis.
How do you know that?
I guess I don't.
You don't know that, because we also had Emperor Palpatine, a.k.a. Darth Sidious.
A.k.a. Sheev.
Yeah, Sheev. It is becoming less likely that he's going to be Plagueis, but I'm still going with it.
It's an alias.
It's an alias. I'm still going with it, but let's just talk about, there's a lot to talk about here. The first being this picture of Andy Serkis. We're pretty much committing to the fact that he is playing another performance capture character. Some people are like, oh, I just wanted to see Andy act. He is acting. That's what he does. But yes, it was really cool to see him in the Avengers, but I'm actually really excited to see him as some alien species now, because it looks like in that picture in the trailer, in that teaser trailer, the latest one, that cloaked figure in the back going, who's that? The Supreme Chancellor sounds like the Supreme Leader, Ruler. What is it called?
Supreme Leader. No, it's hard to imagine a title above. It's hard to imagine anybody is the boss of somebody named Supreme Leader.
Right?
He's like, Emperor, forget that.
Yeah, he's the Supreme Leader.
Yeah.
So do we think? We can speculate like crazy here. First of all, I guess the first question is, Max, as far as him playing an alien, do you dig that?
Oh yeah. I think I love that idea. I think that was kind of what we were expecting. It's like you kind of hear that voice. It sounds sort of alien. He's known for his motion capture, right? So I think that's definitely something. I'm hoping. I'm crossing my fingers that he's going to be a true Sith. Is still my like fanboy kind of hope.
I think you have I think there's a good chance.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, you look at what he was in Avengers, and he was great in Avengers: Age of Ultron. But let's not forget what this guy has done with motion capture as far back as Gollum and King Kong, and then obviously Caesar from the Planet of the Apes reboot. This is what you want Andy Serkis to do. You want everybody. That's why you cast guys who are in the Raid 2 to do fight scenes. Okay, this is why you cast top name actors to play roles. This is why you cast Andy Serkis to be in this movie, is because we're in outer space. There's going to be aliens. How much of that is going to be motion capture? What does this guy look like? Why does he have to be motion captured? Is he a human that got burned real bad, or is he an alien that is wearing a cloak? I cannot wait to see what this is. And I like the name too.
And that's what I was going to go to next. There's so many people already on the internet. I hate that name. I love it too. I think it's great. One of our close friends was sending me texts back and forth, and he's like, well, who's next? Captain Pew Pew and Laserbeak? It's like, if you go back and look at Lando, if you go back, you look at Lando, you look at Han Solo, if those things kind of came out, you think of them now, you think, oh, that's cool, because you know the characters. Yeah. You don't know what Supreme Chancellor, Supreme Leader Snoke. We don't know what he's like. He might be the most menacing character of all time. You're not going to even think twice when you say his name in a year from now.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it is, right? It's sort of the knee-jerk reaction is to always hate whatever name comes out first. But it's one of those things, the more you say it, like now I'm used to saying Kylo Ren or Finn or Rey. You know, these names are like already kind of like sinking in, right? Yeah. So I think it'll be the same thing here in just a couple weeks, maybe a few months. By the time the movie comes out, definitely, I think we won't even think about it.
Yeah, the name that hit me the hardest with Poe Dameron was the one that I was like, really? That's the name? Fine, all right. But Supreme Leader Snoke, and you make a great point, Kristian. We don't know if that's going to be the actual name or not. If that's going to be just a stage name for somebody whose first name is Darth.
Yeah. And it could be. There's so much here. Now, the questions also you want to speculate on the table is, now does that mean, because in that first trailer that we got, there's been an awakening. Have you felt it? Who was he talking to? Some people thought maybe Luke. It might make more sense now that he was talking to either Kylo Ren or he was talking to Captain Phasma. Those two are going to be working for him. I don't have any doubts about that. I think that the question is, who's his Darth Vader? It seems like it could be Kylo Ren, but it seems like he's the dude. Like, even in that pose, look at that pose back there.
That's definitely a puppet master looking guy, if I've ever seen one, right? I think that's got to be it. I think he's got to be the top dog, the one kind of calling the shots. Maybe he's running the First Order from behind the scenes. I don't know, but that's kind of. And look at that guy; he looks sinister, right?
Yeah.
That's a bad guy. That's not. I think there's no question that this is like a Sith Lord that we're dealing with here.
He looks like an evil kid in his bathtub playing with toys and just sending them all to their doom. That's a guy who is behind the scenes pulling the strings.
And there's two. The first thing is, and I think once Aftermath comes out, which is the book, if you guys don't know, it's the book that chronicles what happened between Jedi and The Force Awakens.
And that's September, right? Is when we get
comes
that.
out in September. Now the question is, because they've done a great job of giving you, releasing characters and names when they want to, and like these, and we haven't heard from him, and there's nothing on Donald Gleason whatsoever.
No.
Now with him, now you knew that the internet's going to be talking about Andy Serkis and who he's playing the whole time. In that time in Aftermath, I'd be so curious. Let's say, and I'll get ready to put some money in the hat here, that in the helmet, that Darth Plagueis had been watching this thing go down the whole time with Palpatine, just watching it go down. And when Palpatine was out, he plotted, knew that he should, because Palpatine always kind of rushing into things, and he took his time and eventually took over, started the First Order, and now, but as Snoke.
So he's kind of like the Thanos of this universe.
I was just thinking.
You're going to watch everything else play out, and then it's like, fine, I'll take care of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. And like I said, if he doesn't turn out to be Plagueis at this point, I'm not going to be shocked. When they came out with the Snoke, it threw me off, but I'm still sticking with my guns.
Okay, yeah. I mean, look, in the next story, don't worry, boys. All this stuff is going to be settled because guess what? We can now read The Force Awakens. Let's not get there yet. But there was a rumored leak of the script for Episode 7, The Force Awakens, that came online this week. And so anytime something like that happens, the first thing is, do I read it? And the second thing is, if I do read it, how do I feel about this? Do I want this to be true? Kristian, have you read it? And what do you feel about the things that you may have read?
Well, the first thing is I want to let everybody know we're not going to talk about what's in the leak, so you don't have to fast forward.
Good, because I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't want to know either.
No. So no one, you don't have to worry about it at all. We're not going to talk about it. Max and I were talking about this before we went on air, is that basically what happened here was, I think, making Star Wars or .net or whatever, I don't remember what the site is, but they have got all these rumors that have just keep coming out. And then this one fan stuck together all those rumors and put together kind of a synopsis.
Oh, a nice Afghan.
And it seems so. Of all these things that have been rumored, and I had brought up to Max, is like, how long before all these things? There's so many different reports on certain things that might be true. How long before JJ and those guys say, let's just let them know at this point, at least what the story's going to be about?
I don't know if we're gonna see anything, honestly. I keep thinking, because I thought for sure that we were gonna get some story elements, and even that second teaser that they released at Celebration, but still nothing. Which to me is kind of like, well, are we ever gonna get even like a synopsis? Because we know that J.J. Abrams loves his mystery box, right? And I think it's just kind of a matter of whether or not they'll let him keep as many secrets as he can. Because I think he will, even if they do release some sort of story synopsis. I think the biggest moments in that film are not going to be even hinted at until we actually see the movie.
You don't think we're going to get story details in the first big trailer?
I don't know. I think they could do like another scissor reel type thing and still not give anything crucial away. I don't know.
I can't see another teaser
because I think fans love to have just the little glimpses. It's like sometimes I think of those other older trailers from the prequels.
Yeah.
And even those, like, they hint at the story, but they don't even really give you that much in terms of like what's going to happen from A to B in this movie.
Yeah, I think what the prequels did, and maybe one of the mistakes the prequels made, is that they dined out so often on the nostalgia for Star Wars fans. Is that when you see that Phantom Menace trailer, it's one of my favorite trailers of all time, and they don't give away anything. Right. I mean, you know there's a war coming, but other than that, it's just, hey, remember this character? Hey, this new guy looks scary. Look at all these cool toys that we brought back.
Right.
As opposed to The Force Awakens, which when that the first teaser came out, we didn't know who any of these people were. They were all new people until we saw the Millennium Falcon, and then we got hints in the second one to some of the lineage that we know as far as the Skywalkers go. I think you're going to get a plot point in the next trailer. But again, Star Wars is famous for having multiple plots and just weaving them back and forth. So you're going to get one through line. It's not going to ruin anything else necessarily of the other subplots that are going to be in the film.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be one of these things like Southpaw where you're going to learn the whole story in one trailer. I think we're going to actually get enough to where, okay, so they're setting up the world for where we are now, because I think that will excite people as well for like, well, where exactly in the Star Wars universe are we? And I know we're going to get a lot of that when we're actually in watching the movie, but I think you have to show some of it. I mean, I agree with you, Max. I wouldn't need anything else to convince me to go see the movie, but I do want to see a little bit more of like, I don't know, like what's happening with that First Order, what's happening with the Resistance, everything.
And like I said, I think we'll get little hints of that. But as far as just like the overarching story, I'm not completely sold on that.
Yeah.
I think maybe we'll find out like about one more old character, like a Luke or Leia, and figure out like just
what's their role.
Yeah, see them, like where are they? Can we put into context like what these two are doing? Because we know Han Solo at some point gets back on the Millennium Falcon, right? So it's like maybe we'll get something like that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that you're probably going to see Luke in the final trailer. And again, before the film comes out, you're going to see TV ads as well. Right. So who makes the TV ads? Because TV ads are the main way to sell it to an audience. It is like, oh, hey, look, there's a Star Wars movie coming out. So of course you're going to have a Han or a Leia or a Chewie or a Luke or at least R2 and 3PO in a TV trailer to let everybody, the more casual fans, know, hey, we got a movie coming out, and don't worry, we brought back the rest of the original gang.
Well, let me ask you guys this then before we move on to the next one, is when do you think when we will get that full trailer? Because we haven't had a full trailer yet. We've had 2 teasers. When are we getting the full 2+ minute trailer? If I was to guess, there have been rumors about it, and people are saying Inside Out might get it, which is interesting.
Well, that'd be nice.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting.
That would be.
But I'm still going to say that I think the first one we get is right before Ant-Man, and probably debut that at Comic-Con, because I think Ant-Man comes out a week after Comic-Con.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say Comic-Con gets it first, and then Ant-Man gets it.
Do you think there's a possibility for D23?
I think D23 they'll re-show it, but I think D23 is going to focus heavier on Rogue One, because Rogue One really can't do a lot of publicity because of Rogue Nation.
Right. Well, how long do they have to wait for that?
I mean, I think it comes out in July, so once the release of the movie, and then August is Rogue One, or August is D23, so that makes sense. I think they'll re-show some stuff from Force Awakens at D23, and I also think that they may show like a scene or something for the fans in attendance. But how about you, Max? When do you think we're going to get the next full one?
Yeah, I think what you said is entirely possible. I think Comic-Con is a pretty good bet, and what you said about D23 makes sense. That was kind of my thought process, would be D23. But yeah, Inside Out would be cool. I'd be down for that, or any of those really.
I mean, I'm hopeful for later today. What I think is interesting is if you get a full trailer at Comic-Con, what would that spell for the next 6 months until the movie comes out? Are you going to get another full trailer around like October or around Thanksgiving? Would that happen? Because if that's the case, I don't think you're going to get it at Comic-Con. I think it's going to be D23. I think that's when they do it.
Long.
I think that there's going to be some. I think you're going to get some announcements at Comic-Con, but I don't think you're going to get new footage at Comic-Con. I hope I'm wrong, because that's before
footage?
D23.
I don't know about footage, but a trailer. You don't think a new trailer either?
I think D23 is their showcase event. I think that, and I know that they said it's going to focus more heavy on the anthology film, but that's my guess.
Well, the only reason, and to be fair, they haven't really said anything about it. It's just that the rumors have been. But I think that the reason why I think they lose an opportunity if they don't. Ant-Man is a movie that is going to be everyone. I know Guardians of the Galaxy they didn't know what was going to happen, and look how that turned out. But Ant-Man is one that the buzz is not so high on, and not the way that Guardians was. So I think it would help a little bit to have that trailer playing before Ant-Man. I know it's different because you can find it on the internet now, but it's still fun to watch a Star Wars trailer in the theater. I think it would make sense to put it before at least Ant-Man.
Yeah.
And you set Comic-Con on fire, too.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, do you think it'd be possible that because they've done this before with other movies, do you think they could show like maybe a quick clip out of context, maybe?
I think they'll show that. I think that's what they're going to show at D23.
You think that'll be D23?
I think if they're going to show a clip, they're going to show that at D23. I think the trailer is going to be shown because that's really all they need to do. Because it doesn't look like Disney is going to do much at Comic-Con.
They don't really need to. With Star Wars, they need just the bare
a little,
minimum. Yeah,
it doesn't look like they're doing anything with Marvel,
right?
And they might just do some other stuff there. It's I think it's really gonna be all about Warner Brothers and Fox this year because D23, like you said, they want to really focus heavy at D23. So Star Wars, I think that they will because they can still light Comic-Con on fire just by showing the trailer.
That's all they need is a minute of footage, maybe less.
That's it.
They don't need anything.
And bring out a cast member. Bring out like one or two cast members. I don't know if JJ will show up, but if they do, that's all you need.
Do you think they could do another character reveal?
Maybe Donald Gleason.
Yeah, Donald Gleason.
Yeah, I think a piece of news, too, would... I mean, in my heart, it wouldn't take the place of a trailer because seeing new Star Wars footage in a trailer form, which is a piece of art in amongst itself, is so fantastic to me. But a piece of news, I think, would be enough at Comic-Con to tide the fans over until D23.
All right, Mark, what's next?
All right, so speaking about his new gig in Star Wars Episode 7, a young man whose name I'm about to butcher, Miltos Uralomo.
I think you're close. Urelamo. I would say Urelamo, but I don't know. So either one of us
can we just say Miltos for the rest of the...
Yes. Call him Milt. How about Milty?
Milty?
Uncle
Milty.
Uncle Milt. From Game of Thrones, you guys may know him as Syrio, who he wielded a sword in Game of Thrones. He was asked about his participation in Episode 7. He didn't divulge exactly what it is because he's a good sport, but he said that the film lives up to the expectations and that J.J. Abrams is getting back to emotional storytelling. Kristian, is Spike the Meter anyway for you?
It almost seems like everybody's getting an email of this is what you're supposed to say.
I think exactly that. Yeah.
I believe it all. I believe every bit of it.
Yeah.
But everyone says this. And it's just like, just say JJ's very excited and it's going to be good. And that's really what everyone is saying. And I buy it because this dude was so good. Game of Thrones. We had two Game of Thrones actors, right? Two, at least, that we know of. And I love the pool that they're picking from. And this dude, even if he's got a smaller role, I think that it would, just because I guess knowing him from being on Game of Thrones and what he played, I would love to see him as a Jedi master, like teaching some kids. Like maybe he was a Jedi that trained under Luke at one point, and now he's just kind of off on his own training some more. I don't know. It's just, but he could be none of that. But Max, how do you feel about this guy being?
Well, did we hear something about like maybe him kind of hanging around to like the animatronics and some of the puppets and stuff?
Oh, really?
I think I read something like that, and then so that says to me maybe he's because we know that Lupita's character, the Kaz or Maz, is like some sort of pirate. So I'm wondering if this guy could be maybe one of her crew members or pals.
Yeah, the quote you're referring to, I'm on StarWars7News.com, which by the way is awesome.
They're the best.
Thanks for everything that you do for us. The actual quote that you're referring to is he'd be sitting on set next to aliens and animatronics. Right. Only a little bit of blue screen was used. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can speculate one way or another if that means his character is for the force of good or if he's on the dark side.
Right.
And you always assume that if you don't know about somebody in the Star Wars universe, that they're going to be bad. Or maybe that's because
he doesn't look like a bad guy, though.
He just doesn't have that Adam Driver face.
But he could be like the smuggler type, right? Or like a bounty hunter or something like that.
He could be the charismatic cowboy swashbuckling force.
Yeah, it was kind of like the character in the Timothy Zahn novels, the Thrawn trilogy. It was that one, I can't remember his name, but he was the guy.
A long time since
but he was like the guy who basically was with Mara Jade. He was that main pirate, main smuggler. If they ever brought that character in, it'd be interesting. But he could play someone totally different in that same vein. But yeah, I love this guy. I'm glad that he's in the movie and looking forward. Even if it's a smaller role, it's good to see that they're just populating this whole entire movie with really great actors.
Yeah, I remember you and I, because we have a lot of free time on our hands, when we did the Episode 7, the speculation draft, when we said these are who we want to be in the movie, a lot of Game of Thrones actors were being bandied about because we know they come to play.
And rightfully so, too.
None of the ones that we picked made it, but still, we got the TV show right.
All right, so that's the movie news this week. The big one up top was obviously Andy Serkis. It's great to see that Darth Plagueis is going to be in the movie. But we're gonna move on now. The segment of the show, it is called "What's the Deal with Canon?" These are all the stories and all the news of everything that's happening in the world of Star Wars. It could be the books, it could be the video games, the comics, anything that ties in to the world of the movies. We're going to talk about it. I don't believe there was a new issue of any of the comics this week, so we're
I think there's like 3 coming out next week.
Are they?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
so
they're bombarding it for.
we're going to start getting a lot of comics, and then the next Dark Disciple is going to be coming out on the 7th of July, but I'm actually getting an early copy of that. Thank you to our friends over at Del Rey. I'll be able to
nice.
talk to you guys about that once. I think I'm going to get that pretty soon. I'll blast through it and make sure I can do a review of it. But this week, we're pretty free, and there's some news going on in the world of canon. Mark, what's first?
Well, particularly, you got Garo Witta, who was the screenwriter for the first draft of Rogue One, revealed on Twitter that he is going to be working on an episode of Rebels, and he had the most adorable tweet you'd ever want to read. He said that he's writing an episode of Star Wars Rebels while my daughter sits in my office in Rebels pajamas watching Rebels. Kristian, this sounds like your home life.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's amazing, and it seems like my dream life. But this makes me go, okay, so Rogue One is going to tie into Rebels. And yes, I'll speculate all day long and not just saying I'm reading too much into it. No, it makes sense. This is the dude who wrote Rogue One. He wrote the characters after the idea had come down the pipeline. He got that blueprint going. And he must have done something right if they're talking to him at Rebels and saying, hey, can you write an episode? It'll tie in well. Because when we were at Celebration, they asked Kiri Hart if, because of that timeline of Rogue One, if it's possible to see the characters from Rebels or events from Rebels. And she said, we're very aware that Rebels takes place during this time. So him writing an episode, I hope that they introduce some characters, like some Easter eggs, because we haven't had that yet. An Easter egg that is tied into something in the greater of the movies yet, but then again, we haven't had any movies come out. So
Right. Well, day one, we've heard about, or we've seen people speculate about ties between Rogue One and Star Wars Rebels. I've heard so many theories about like Hera popping up in like a Rebel pilot sequence or something in Rogue One, or Sabine, like any of these like main characters, because you would think that like some of these characters would be created specifically so that they could be in more than just what they're introduced in, right?
Right.
It's like we want these characters to live and breathe in other places. So I think it makes total sense that we would see something like that, especially in this Gary Whitta episode. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a Rebels character, even a really auxiliary one, in that movie. I think it's entirely possible that we could get maybe deeper into those backstories of some of those characters too.
Is there any doubt that when you see the Rogue One trailer, the first official teaser trailer, not just the little scene that we saw,
right,
is that probably at the end you're going to see a reveal of a character that is from Rebels?
You think so?
And the place is going to go nuts, because this is like when you're at a football game and you're in the top row and you can look and you can see what's going on here, then you can also see the action down the field and you see the play unfold. This is what it feels like to me, is that, okay, you got all these characters in this TV show, then you have this movie that's coming out. It's around the same time. Oh, that's going to link up with that. And it's the right play, because this is a first anthology film.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be having all that Skywalker lore to help sell the movie to the public. So you want to tie it in. And obviously they're doing that because everybody knows that the Rebels stole the Death Star plans. That's the premise. But putting Rebels in there is smart, not only for the movie, but also for the Rebels TV show. So now everybody is going to want to get on the train of watching this show.
Synergy.
That's
Disney
right.
synergy.
But it's also interesting because if you look at it, if you space it out to where they're extending Rebels now, because I think last season was 13 episodes, this one's 22, and we start this in September. Okay, so the end of season 2 will be I don't know, whenever it was, March or April, I assume, of 2016. Probably. We're going to be getting into, by the time that movie comes out, we'll be like midway through season 3 of Rebels. So they have to line up at that point. The timeline, you would think, because otherwise it becomes too confusing if they are in the same canon timeline. So we don't know. Look at what's happened so far in 13 episodes just in season 1.
Yeah.
What we've seen so far, and did you get a chance to see the season 2 premiere?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what
awesome.
we've seen just from season 2 premiere, there's going to be a lot that goes down in season 2. By mid-season 3, who knows what the world's going to be like in Rebels, to where we get, who knows if all the characters are even alive.
Yeah, well, you take Marvel, for example. You take, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or you take even Agent Carter, where, like, these are shows that are directly influenced by the movies, right? So it stands to reason that could something similar could happen with Rebels and Rogue One. And if Rogue One becomes a series, I feel like the two could kind of intertwine for a good amount of time. I don't know.
Yeah, what Star Wars has always been good at having, neat weapons and cool-looking aliens, but when it really excels, it's the emotional storytelling, okay? So if you know more of these Rebels characters, like we already do with Ezra and Kanan and some other ones, once you really feel the emotional weight of, oh, I know these people, I've been on adventures with these people, if they make an appearance in Rogue One, and Alderaan's doomed, and when you see Alderaan blow up, spoiler alert, in A New Hope, you're like, I don't really care about, I've never met those people, I've never met an Alderaanian, maybe I don't like them that much. Now you're going to really care about stealing these plans in time.
That's a great point, though, too, because if I believe that they will, Rogue One delivers, and let's say that they go to Alderaan, you see it, and you get that emotional connection. When you go back and watch Episode 4, it might hurt a little bit more watching that planet.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I was at the Chili's on Alderaan.
Okay, what's next?
All right, well, as far as he's known on Earth, Supreme Leader Snoke goes by the name Pablo Hidalgo, and he just had a chat with Vanity Fair, and in the interview, he brought up how the approach to the Star Wars continuity has changed ever since they applied the continuity wipe. So Pablo Hidalgo sits down with Vanity Fair to talk canon. Kristian, what was your biggest takeaway from this talk?
Well, it's just the fact that how he got the job is fascinating. It's like he's been working at Lucasfilm for a while, and before the story group and this canon thing was even a thing, people would go up to him and be like, "Hey, who was that guy who did that in the book?" To where he knew it. He was the he was Wikipedia.
Yeah,
that was him.
I've met people like that before.
Well, not like me. I mean, this guy is something else. So when Kathleen Kennedy decided to make the story group, she went to him. She went to Leland Shee, and she said, those are my guys. And to hear him and it goes back to that canon panel that we were at Celebration. They know the task in hand. They know how difficult it might be. He knows how difficult it's going to be, but they're excited about it. And he also kind of, what I took away from it was the confirmation of anything, and we knew this, but from people who don't, anything that was part, because I still get tweets all the time, is this book canon? Is this not canon? They have a canon list, but everything that has come out since, I think, as far as a book goes, the New Dawn, and whatever's been released, those books, anything that comes out now, that's canon stuff. So all the older stuff, I know people are asking about Shadows of the Empire, no. And as far as the video games, Force Unleashed, no. And hearing him talk about it, you understand really why, because they have a vision. But Max, what do you think about his words?
Yeah, it's like like that canon panel at Celebration. It was interesting to hear people talk about, going up and asking specifically, like, is Boba Fett in the Sarlacc pit? Is he not? And he brought up this interesting point about how because we haven't even addressed it yet, it's like he's sort of both in it and not in it at the same time. Right. It's sort of like until we address it, it's up in the air, right? Which is kind of like how things like Star Wars: The Old Republic, stuff like that. It's like until it's touched, we can assume that it's just sort of in limbo, but none of it is. It's definitely not the official story right now, right?
Wouldn't you love to be in that room when they're like, all right, guys, Boba Fett, what do you think?
Yeah.
Right. Where are we going?
And they've had that conversation. Like they do know. It's like he was being coy, but it's like he knows where Boba Fett is.
They ordered a lot of pizza and a lot of Chinese food because you're pulling an all-nighter during that segment. I'm going to go to the other side of this because when he brought up Star Wars Legends, and he was very fair, but he was very honest about it too. He's like, look, a lot of these stories were just written in an era when there weren't new movies coming out every year, and we didn't have a lot of expectations. So the writers had the freedom to go wherever they wanted in the galaxy, and now that you do have to lock it down into some sort of continuity, you got to cut some fat, and they're still fantastic to read. It just, you have to know going into this that you are not going to see a lot of this stuff in the upcoming films.
Right. All right, what's next?
All right, I believe that is our penultimate story because Lego released new images of the Kylo Ren ship. This is how Star Wars news gets released now, is through the toys or the trading cards, and in this case, Legos. First of all, Kristian, do you want this thing? Second of all, how long is it going to take you to actually build this thing? Do you need to follow the instructions?
No, it's not going to work because my daughter, like now, she just likes to hide. I worked on this I don't know what it was, this puzzle for God knows how long, and the next thing you know, she's hiding the pieces, so I'm not going to get it.
I'm sorry your hot air balloon picture didn't get finished.
It was horrible, but what I'll tell you though is that looking at this particular ship, it goes back to you're really prepping this guy. This is the villain. This is the guy, and it's gonna, like Star Wars has done, there's gonna be an extreme emotion behind him. What it's gonna reveal, I still believe that he's Skywalker / Solo, but his ship. It goes back to, I think that he's like a Darth Vader fanboy. From what
he grew up with the Darth Vader fat head on his wall.
Yeah, I still think Darth Revan fanboy if he's going off the mask there. It's
maybe
very
both.
old Republic.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. But he could be whatever it is, or we don't even necessarily know in that lead concept art of somebody holding on to. We don't know if that's him. That could be the Supreme Chancellor or Supreme Ruler. At this point. So. But anyway, I like this ship. I like the design. It's very Star Warsy. But Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, it just the way that it does resemble the old Empire ships that you would see, like the one that Darth Vader was on at the beginning of Return of the Jedi, and it looks updated. I mean, it's been 30 years since we saw that ship in action, and so it's like, oh, okay, here's the ship. Here's maybe some minor modifications we can make with it. Maybe we can make it a little more combat ready, because Darth Vader's ship never looked all that combat ready, and then the wings would fold in. So here, this one looks like it's built more for battle at the spur of a moment, which is what you're about to get in The Force Awakens.
And I think it's also worth noting too that he's flying over a seemingly like forest-looking planet, which I don't know.
Good eye.
In the shot with the crossguard lightsaber, right? He's in a forest.
Oh, good call.
So we can maybe assume that this is the same planet,
right?
But who knows exactly which planet? I think there are like a dozen like forest planets, but who knows?
Isn't it crazy how iconic that shot already is? I mean, don't you have the movie of him in the woods? It's crazy.
Now kids have T-shirts of it cutting off Jar Jar's head.
People's wallpapers on their computer backgrounds.
It's pretty nuts. But I'm excited to see what happens and where this goes down. But
do you guys like the whole thing where like sometimes news is broken by a toy getting released? I think that's so cool.
Yeah, when it doesn't give away plot or anything, it's fun.
Why not? They do stuff. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Though. They do it through so many different outlets. They can just do it randomly on StarWars.com, like they did with Andy Serkis' character today. They do it through Lego. They can do things through the comics. They can do things through the books. There's so much stuff that they can do the way that they release information. I think it's brilliant. Okay, that was it. That was the canon for this week. But before we get into Address the Council today, I wanted to bring up an article that Max actually wrote on MTV.com.
Oh, thank you.
This was actually really cool. I read this earlier today, and it's the 49 things that the Star Wars prequels did absolutely right. Now, how often do you hear that?
How many of those things?
49.
49
things.
It took a while.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. I just want to go through a couple of things here that now I was reading these, and I told Max before, I'm like, a lot of these I agreed with. Because right away when you hear, all right, you're reaching. 49
Yeah, that's
things.
a lot of things.
First, the Jedi Order. The fact that the Jedi Order in Jeddah was brought up. Although, what's his face? Yoda actually brings up. He does bring up the council in Empire Strikes Back. He said, "My own council, I ran." But that was it. But you're right. For the most part, we get the council. We get a lot of the Jedi Order. It's really explained.
Yeah. You get that first visual of the council. It's like before that, you don't even know. Like, what is it? 12 guys? Is it 1,000 guys? Who's in this council?
And that was one of the things that when I paid to see Meet Joe Black, so I could see that trailer,
right.
You see Yoda sitting there, and he's giving the anger leads to hate and all that stuff, and you're like, is that the Jedi? This is what we've been hearing about. That's the place.
And we don't care about as far as how it was all executed. The idea of what was brought in the prequels,
and that's expounded in so many other things. Like you realize, you think about like video games, you think about comics, books. These things are like highly influenced.
And it could shape the new movies, the spin-off movies,
totally,
the lore. So it's what happened inside the lore that Max really explored here. The main thing here is the Sith. There was, and you mentioned this in your article, never mentioned once in the original trilogy.
No, it's just I think they refer to Darth Vader as the Dark Lord, right?
Right.
It's very ominous, but it's not like, what are you, dude? Are you a Dark Jedi? Like, it's not until Episode 1 that you're like, oh, Sith. There's a counterbalance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all that. And then he brings up as far as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor, obviously the best part in that movie. Totally agree. Qui-Gon Jinn, and what you mentioned about him is we don't necessarily know whether he was necessary,
right?
But we can't. But the fact that he was there and he brought such a presence, because what Qui-Gon Jinn did in the time period of the Clone Wars was beneficial, because
he invented the Force Ghost.
Yes, he did. You're right.
That's baller.
There's a lot of other things you should check this out. So you can go to Max's Twitter, Max_Nicholson, to check that out as well too.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to see a couple other ones. There's a lot of really good ones here, but there's one that I wanted to get into, and that was
Darth
yeah,
Maul.
You know, the Clone Wars.
He's in there.
Darth Maul is in there, but the Clone Wars in general, because had the clone. When you first see it, and in the prequels, you go, man, this wasn't the Clone Wars I had heard about. But then you go and you watch the 6 seasons of the Clone Wars, and that was the Clone Wars, and they set it up beautifully. So you're right. You made a lot of great points here, and I don't want people to, because a lot of times we'll get, you guys, all you do is hate on the prequels. We were disappointed with the prequels, but
there's a lot to love. There's a lot to love in those. There are
a lot of things that do shape.
Surprisingly, you go back and you think about it. It's enlightening.
Yeah, check it out and read that article. It's great. And speaking of which, now we do this is a portion of the show. It is address the council. So every week, someone on the council has a topic of something they want to bring up. They talk to you guys out there. They talk to us, and then we'll all respond to it, and you guys respond in the comments. Today, our guest, Max, is going to address the council, let us know what's on his mind, and then we will all comment on it. Max, council is yours.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited about this. This is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I've talked about this at length with many of my friends, people over the years. And this is force powers, and specifically, I kind of want to talk about force powers in The Force Awakens, because I'm curious, because in almost every movie, even if it's a very minor thing, we get some new force power or something that you didn't realize could happen. Like in Episode 1, you see Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi using like force speed, like these sorts of things. And I think it's interesting that we kind of peel back the layers of the Force with each movie. So I'm wondering, especially, so initially when I was asked this, a buddy of mine asked me, he's like, "Do you think we'll see new force powers in The Force Awakens?" And my initial response was, no. I think we've seen pretty much all there is. In terms of like, there's telekinesis, there's Jedi mind trick, all these sorts of things. But then you think about it, and the title of that movie is The Force Awakens, right? So it's like you gotta think that there's gonna be something new, whether it be from like a video game or a comic or something, or if it's something entirely original like Force Fly or I don't know. But you could go anywhere with it, right? But I guess what I'm another one of my points here is. Not only are we going to see something new, but to what extent are these powers going to be depicted in this movie? Because we've seen so many different types of like force levels. We've seen like the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars series portrays them as superheroes. Basically, you know, they can basically jump hundreds of feet in the air and they can rip apart Star Destroyers, and or like in The Force Unleashed, you can bring down an entire Star Destroyer. But those aren't things you necessarily see in those movies. But at the same time, you look at the difference between Episode 4, where I don't even think there was an instance of telekinesis, and then you go forward to Episodes 3 and 2, and you see like them pulling stuff all the time, pushing stuff all the time. It's like, do we think that there's going to be some sort of balance here, or is it going to be? Are they going to just go for broke and make them the superheroes that we've seen them in other things? You know. So I'm curious, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think The Force Awakens, it definitely is going to refer to that, but I think as far as the future goes, I think that The Force Awakening is actually going to be stuff from the past that was long forgotten even before the prequels were a thing in lore. So I think that when you had this Ancient Order of Jedi and the Sith starting out, that there was a lot of other things going on with the Force, that somebody's going to find a relic, they're going to find this, or some other puppet master, like a Snoke, is going to say, now let's employ this. So I think it's going to be something new for us as an audience, but it's going to be something very old in the Star Wars universe timeline.
I think we're getting a lot of different force powers, because I think that we're going to have the Awakening, and there's going to be a lot of Sith, there's going to be a lot of Jedi. I don't think we're sticking with the rule of 2 anymore. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a complete, as these movies, as we go through 7, 8, and 9, you're going to see more and more and more. And the point you made about the video game, I think that you have to remember that in the video game now, everything is canon. So whatever comes out, how much fun would it be to develop all these new powers and stuff to play as you're playing them? But they also still have to make sense, and they can't be, like you said, like Force Fly and all this kind of crazy stuff. So, and who knows what Snoke's going to be able to do?
Right.
Who knows?
And you look at Kylo Ren, and this is a guy who's seemingly poking around in at Sith relics and things like this. At the very least, we know somebody is uncovering Darth Vader's helmet, right? Somebody's interested in the Sith.
Right.
So you go poking around and you dig up these artifacts and stuff, chances are you're gonna run into something kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Maybe new powers. Maybe something like untapped that we haven't even seen before. Maybe it's like you think about The Force Awakens literally, like is there going to be an awakening of the Force in people who are not necessarily Force sensitive.
Well, Luke's been training for 30 years. What's he discovered?
Right.
Like,
yeah, sure.
we don't know what
He's been working out. Yeah. I mean, what are
He's
they?
probably been digging up stuff.
How powerful is the Force going to be in this movie compared? Is Snoke going to be able to just move his hand and pick up that huge Star Destroyer that was crashed on Jakku? I mean, can he just lift that thing up? Who knows? What are they? Let me take you boys to Vegas for a second. What is the over/under on number of mentions of midi-chlorians?
0.
Yeah. None.
We're
not going to hear it at all.
No.
That's the way I'd like it, but we'll see.
I don't think we'll ever
nice
get it.
and vague, please.
I will tell you this about midichlorians, though, is that James Luceno, who did write Darth Plagueis in that novel, if you've read that book, he absolutely explains it in a way that you go, oh, okay, it makes sense. I know. But I'm telling you, it actually does make sense the way he describes it, but there's no way we're getting it.
I don't have enough midi-chlorians in me to read a book.
Yeah, we've read about J.J. Abrams and his resent for Jar Jar Binks, right? It's like I think he's gonna differentiate himself as much as he can from that.
I think Disney in general and Lucasfilm is trying to just not acknowledge a lot of the stuff in the prequels, even though like we said before, and with your article, how the history is shaped in the movies, and there are definitely parts that have shaped the movies, but they're not going to draw reference to the prequels the way they are in the original trilogy. Because even when it's Celebration, we talked about this, there was hardly anything to do. Remember Walking the Floor? How much of the prequel stuff did you really see?
Yeah, none. I think they had like the old 2005, like the Revenge of the Sith ones, like out in the line. You could see those banners.
That was it.
They were like, yeah, these are left over.
That was it. And
that was really all they had.
Because I think it's just a matter of them wanting to show, like, we're going more and more towards the old trilogy feel. And they're just, and that's a marketing thing.
Yeah.
It's a marketing thing too. So
and smart.
It is. Okay, guys, so as far as Max's address to council goes, you guys chime in. What kind of Force powers do you guys think that we're going to see? Or do you think we're going to see any new ones at all? Is it just going to be the same kind of old tricks from before? Let us know. Comment below. And we are going to now let you guys address the council. And how do you do that? You tweet in. You hashtag AMC Jedi Council every week. We pick your tweets, and then we read them. We discuss them. Mark, what's the first on the line today?
We got some doozies today. Our first Twitter question comes from Tristan Shields, who writes, do you think that Zer Leonis could be Finn's father? They both were/are stormtroopers.
Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with who Zer Leonis is, in Season 1 of Rebels, he is someone that Ezra meets, and basically gets not taken away, but just kind of get taken away by the Inquisitor to do God knows what. Is it possible that he could be Finn's father? Yeah, I think it's possible. There was a lot of tweets coming out at first thinking that is it possible that he is Finn? And I'm like, no, that would make sense because of timeline.
Yeah,
he would be, but as far as how timelines match up here, if it was his dad and he kind of went through the line and became an Imperial because of his dad, I could see it. It'd be a nice little nod to the fans.
Star Wars loves their small world in a big galaxy feel, right? I think they love doing stuff like that. Like they're like, oh, hey, Lando, it happens to be that my best friend runs this city. let's hide out there, right? It's like there's stuff like that all the time. So I think it's completely possible, especially. It's like you kind of think about like Finn and Rey, and their last names are both hidden, I think, purposefully.
Right.
And it could be that his last name is what's it?
Leonis.
Leonis. Yeah, I think that's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Sure.
Was Zer in Rebels? I mean, was he playing both sides of it, or was he going into, because obviously you see the character Finn, it looks like he was either really enrolled in the Imperial Academy or he's just dressing up as a stormtrooper to smuggle something. But if they're playing both sides, then that would make sense for the lineage.
It would make sense for because he's. What's his face? Zane was, and that was playing both sides for sure. So, it would make sense.
Yeah,
okay,
like
what's
it.
next?
Adam S. writes, what comes first in canon, Lords of the Sith or Tarkin? I have conflicting sources. Well, Adam, you came to the right place, and he's sitting to my left and to my right.
I'm telling you, man, I'm with him on the conflicting, because in the timeline on the book, it says that Lords of the Sith comes first, and then Tarkin. But in Lords of the Sith, it says that it takes place eight years after the Clone Wars, and Tarkin is supposed to take place 5 years afterwards. So it's a bit confusing.
Do those books span multiple years, like within one book?
No, not really. I mean, Tarkin does in the when he's kind of doing flashbacks and stuff, but the actual timeline through the events that we're following are pretty clear.
Do we know what the order is just on the that infographic that we saw?
On the infographic, it's Sith first and then Tarkin.
Okay.
So
I would be inclined to believe that then.
I do too, but it's because I'm just saying because when you read the actual book, it says 8 years.
Yeah,
but I don't know if maybe they meant, because Mark, you made this point last time, that normally when you mention the end of a war, or when you mention 8 years since the war, you would say they're talking about the end of the war.
If I'm thinking 8 years after the Civil War, I'm thinking 8 years after the end of the Civil War, so I'm going 1873 as opposed to 1869.
Yeah.
But they could say, because I think the Clone Wars went for 3 years. So if they did say 8 years since the Clone Wars, then that would make sense, because then it would be those 3 years plus a 5. So I don't know. So we'll have to find out in time. All right, what's next?
Call Pablo and Leland, and we'll get back
exactly.
to it. Forrest Smith writes, do you think Lucasfilm will make a sequel to Rogue One? If so, how long would we have to wait?
The sequel's out. It's called Episode 4, A New Hope.
Good film, I've heard.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make a sequel, and I don't think they should. But
it feels like a one-off to me.
Yeah.
It's like this movie is here to depict a very specific time, and we know what happens like directly before and directly after that movie. So I think it would be kind of pointless unless you decided to make it sort of like in keeping with the anthology, if you did Rogue 2 and it was like about a completely separate like cell of rebels in a different time period, like I think that would be the only conceivable way that you would want to do something like that.
You could spin off the characters in the movie, though.
That's
too.
true.
Like, if there's somebody who
maybe an adventure like taking place in the chronological timeline of the movies or something like that, in between the movies.
Yeah, I'd want to know what happens to the characters if a lot of them survive. I don't think a lot of them are going to survive.
I think so.
The
You're
movie.
right. You're so right.
I think there's going to be a brutal war flick on your hands come Christmas 2016. So,
okay, what's next?
Josh Pesek writes, do you think J.J. Abrams will have a big twist at the end of Episode 7?
Max, what do you think?
I think it's possible. I think that's something that J.J. Abrams also likes to do, is big twists. And I think that's definitely a possibility. I would think that we maybe would get several twists throughout the movie. Is kind of my line of thinking. I don't even know, but I am curious to know exactly how much are these older characters going to be in it. Is it one of those things where they pop up in the last several minutes, or is it one of those things where they're actually in the story? I think that could also kind of play into whether or not there's going to be some sort of twist.
They tried to do a pseudo kind of twist, new information with the end of Phantom Menace, right? I mean, there was the reveal of somebody, there's always an apprentice and a master, that kind of thing. But then you also have a parade at the end, and Star Wars likes to do that. Even Empire Strikes Back, you end on somewhat of a, hey, don't worry, we're gonna get the band, we're gonna get together and we're gonna save Han, and I'm gonna fix my hand, everything's gonna be okay. So I think they might want to tie up that story, whatever happens in Episode 7, pretty neatly. Obviously, there's going to be loose ends because it's a new trilogy. I don't see a huge curveball coming at the end of Episode 7. I don't see it.
Also, sorry.
No, that's right. No, go.
Well, also, it's one of those things too where you look at Episode 1 and you look at Episode 4, which are like kind of they are the first installments of a trilogy each, right?
Right.
And both of those stories are very self-contained. Like they at the end of A New Hope, like Darth Vader gets away. That's about the biggest kind of question mark there is.
Right.
And same thing, like you said, for Episode 1, it's like you kind of get this sort of this idea about the Sith and the rule of two and things like that at the end of that movie.
There's definitely going to be loose ends. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
You're going to get a lot of stuff that's not going to be answered. But I think a loose end, like Darth Vader not dying, as opposed to like a curveball, like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
I don't think you're going to get that at the end.
Yeah.
The reason I do think you'll get one of those is because when you start off, if you're right though, in Episode 4 we didn't have one, but that was the start of the series in general. Okay, so this is not, even though this is the first movie of a new trilogy, it's still the 7th movie of the series. So they're still continuing a storyline all the way through, even if it's a reveal that we guessed right and the Kylo Ren is the son, or whatever that might be. I think something like that will pop up in the movie, but the big, huge one, I don't think we're going to get that until like Episode 8, right in the middle.
I heard there's a good one at the end of Empire Strikes Back. I got to check that out.
All right, what's next?
Broderick Koning writes, how would you fix the prequel stories? I'm glad Max is here.
Yeah.
I personally would start those 3 movies from Revenge of the Sith. More Vader.
I agree with Broderick 100%. I would start with, I always thought, way before Christian Bale was Batman, I always thought he would have been a great Anakin Skywalker. I always thought that, if you had him in a role to where you saw he and Obi-Wan more like friends than they were like the way Obi-Wan was kind of condescending to Anakin a lot of the times, and Anakin was just stomping his feet and crying the whole time. I would have liked to seen that friendly relationship to then where you believed and saw what a great pilot he was, and then you see the reasoning of why he turned into Vader about the last 10 minutes of the movie, and then started the trilogy of him as Vader, and seeing the Vader that we're getting now in Rebels and in Lords of the Sith, that would be great. But I also, going back off of your points here of setting it up, all these brand new stories like Lords of the Sith and Rebels, and we might see him in Rogue One, that might have worked out okay. Like, the more it worked, the more I would have liked to see him developed a lot better and executed better, sure. But they're able to make up those mistakes here with these new movies.
Yeah, if you say from Revenge of the Sith, this goes back to the war question. Are we talking about the beginning of the war or the end of the war? Because I do need to see that relationship, that friendship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, because Obi-Wan references that when he's talking about the Force for the first time, the audience hears about it in A New Hope. It's like he was a good friend. I want to see that, because even in the prequels, I felt like Obi-Wan and Anakin were more like cops who were partners working a beat together than really good friends. So I want to see that relationship and then how that went sour. If Christian Bale had played him, instead of saying no, he could have just said, "Oh, good for you."
Well done, well done.
Well, as much good as there is in, I think, Episode 1 and to a lesser degree Episode 2, I think the best place to start would have been start opening with the Clone Wars. Right, I think if you open with the Clone Wars, if you open on the thing that we've heard about like since 1977, it's like I think that's just a great starting point. And then you do see the Obi-Wan Anakin relationship kind of flourish. And I think you could even borrow some of the storylines that were literally in the Clone Wars series and put that into the movie. Like if those ideas were really conceived that long ago. Especially like because you hear about George Lucas talking to Dave Filoni about those stories and like how he kind of always had this stuff in mind. It's like, well, why didn't we see that in the movies, right?
You know, it's funny, when you were talking just now, I was like, you know what question we haven't brought up at all? Is there any shot at all that we get a cameo from Ewan McGregor in Rogue One? He's around.
Ooh.
He's lurking. Well, I mean, he was pretty deep into his hermitage around that time. He wasn't talking to too many people. He was just crazy Uncle Ben from the desert.
I'm still holding out on an Unforgiven style kind of Western trilogy with just Obi-Wan. Yeah, I think that's what I want.
Well, then he could finally kill Darth Maul.
Right? Yes, exactly.
That's what we need.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Well, I like Max's idea for a film. And Kristian, I'm going to read this question, but you got to promise not to get too excited. Okay?
All right,
Jose Rodriguez writes, "What would you guys think of Matthew Vaughn directing a Boba Fett anthology movie?" Kristian,
I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want it.
We know each other so well.
I want to see him do something else. Matthew Vaughn's like my favorite director out there right now. For me right now, I would much rather see a Boba Fett Netflix series. I don't need to see a movie.
That would be rad too.
I don't need to see an anthology movie for him. I just don't. I mean, especially if we're going to I want to see them expand either the Old Republic, or I want to see them, like you just said, go to the Obi-Wan stories or something, or a brand new character that we can get introduced through that time period in between the 30 years of Jedi. I don't think you need to do Boba Fett movie.
I agree with that. I think I think Boba Fett is always best when he's kind of to the side, when he's sort of an auxiliary character. He's not a main player. And I agree. I think some of the magic would be lost if we made an entire movie centered around this guy. Like, I think you could do it in a good way and kind of make him sort of mysterious, sort of like a guy out of nowhere coming in to do something and leaving and not knowing exactly still who he is.
Like Cad Bane training.
Yeah, or do a Dread style where you keep the helmet on the entire movie, something like that.
Yeah, but Boba Fett to me is the Incredible Hulk of the Star Wars universe.
Totally.
The best role that he plays is like he shows up, he does some stuff, and then he gets the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Meeting Boba Fett for in a 2-hour movie, the fear is that it's like meeting a radio DJ in person. It's like, that's what you look like? Oh, man.
I don't think they're going to do that, though. I do think that the movie will be more like the Dread style, where he's going on these missions. It's kind of the more bounty hunter movie, to where he's like the anti-hero, whatever they're going to do there. But I still don't necessarily need to see that.
No.
I don't care as much on film. I would love to. I would watch it in bulk every season it was on Netflix. But I think it's a good way for them to transition into it. But Matthew Vaughn, I think Matthew Vaughn would be better served in Episode 9. I think he'd be better served in setting up the Old Republic, or like I said, or branching off somewhere else. So no, I would not like to see Matthew. I wouldn't complain about it if it happened, but not that's not my choice for him.
All right, I tried to make you a movie. You didn't want it.
Sorry.
I'll get over it. Skizone writes, "How would you feel if Luke Skywalker only shows up in the last minute of Star Wars Episode 7.
Oh, there you go.
Max, how would you feel about
I would be...
what are your feelings on this?
Yeah, I would be okay with that, I think. I think ultimately this movie needs to be about new characters. We've like spent a little time like getting to know who these characters are going to be, what sort of role they're going to play. I don't think we need like a full on trio reunion, but I am excited to see those characters. Just like my guttural instinct is like make the movie about them.
Yeah.
But like I don't really want that. I want to see new characters and new stories, and I would like these characters to be sort of the passing of the torch. And I think that could be done with a last-minute Luke Skywalker thing, but I would maybe leave slightly disappointed, especially since we've seen so much of Luke in the teaser already.
Right.
You know.
I liked you for about 40 minutes on this show. I need to see a lot more than 1 minute at the end of Luke Skywalker. I agree with you that this trilogy is not about Luke Skywalker. It might be about Skywalkers going forward, but it ain't going to be about his Luke as much as it is the new characters. I get that, but I need to see Luke. I want him to have a central role in this, and also I want to see Mark Hamill on screen, not just behind the scenes like, oh, Luke set this up. Luke made a Jedi Temple. Luke did this. No. I want to see him on screen and acting in scenes. That would be, again, this movie, it's going to be very hard for me to not be so excited watching every frame of this movie. This movie's going to be so good, I hope, that I'm not watching the movie and being like, I wonder when Luke's going to show up.
Right.
I'm going to trust the movie when I see it, but I'd like to see more than just 1 minute of Luke Skywalker.
Strangely enough, I would be okay with it. Sorry, Mark. You know why? Because
we have 8 and 9 still.
That's the main thing.
Right.
The main there's a couple of reasons. The first is that this movie's going to be Han Solo's movie. It's going to be Han Solo's movie. Yep, this is the end of Han Solo.
You guys are killing me.
I'm telling you.
I think so.
I've been saying this when they announced that he signed his name on the line. I'm like, because he's been asking to be killed off for years, and he finally. I think this is going to be the way that he can do it. But it's going to be about him. I really think it's going to be, and you'll see him, and you'll see Leia, and I think Luke he'll be like you said, he'll be mentioned a bunch of times, and then come episode 8, he's Yoda. I think he's going to be this mythical figure.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
Because I think we're getting I think we're going to get a lot of the Luke Skywalker iconography.
Yep.
Like we're getting the lightsaber, right? We're seeing the lightsaber. We're going to see like these glimpses.
Does he exist? Who is he? Like this big? Like, is he dead at this
right.
point?
You see the robot hand. That's so ominous. But dude, that's badass. That's.
Who is Uncle Luke that Mom and Dad keep talking about?
But he's been on the run. Where's he been? And then if they finally find him, if the whole movie is the mission to find him, and that they finally find him at the end, you think right away, yeah, it'd be a bummer not to see Luke the whole time. But like you said, you have 8 and 9, and if in 8 and 9, the characters that we've gotten established to so much in Episode 7 are now trained by Luke, and now Luke now it sets you up, because remember, you're not waiting 3 years like you used to. You're only waiting a year and a half until the next one comes out. So you only have to wait a year and a half to see Luke in 8 and 9, and I think you're going to have Snoke and Luke face off in Episode 9, and then see you later. What a battle that's going to be.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Year and a half. Han Solo dies. It's going to be a long year and a half.
So I'm actually okay if that's what happens.
Yeah.
I'm okay. All right, Mark, what's next?
That is all that I have on my table. Yeah.
Is that all we got? Wow, that's it. Wow, how about that? All right, well, that's our episode. That is the Jedi Council today. I'd like to thank our guests. First of all, Max Nicholson, where can the good people find you at home?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Max_Nicholson, and you can see me poking around at IGN and MTV. I do a lot of articles there, a lot of Star Wars articles. Check those out. And thanks for having me on.
Oh, you got it, man. Anytime. And Mark2D2, Mark Ellis, how about you?
You can find me online on Twitter at 5150Ellis and Instagram at 5150Ellis. Send me your favorite Luke Skywalker pick, because he's going to be in a new movie a ton.
We'll see. And me, I'm Kristian Harloff, a.k.a. Darth Harloff. Make sure you follow me at Kristian Harloff and keep hashtagging AMC Jedi Council. Submit your questions. We go through them. And by next Thursday, we'll try to get you on the air. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you.